My beloved child. Stop scrolling for just a moment, because something has been quietly moving through your life without your eyes being able to see it. You did not arrive here by accident. Out of countless voices, countless distractions, and countless paths you could have followed today, your heart paused here for a reason. There is a message that has been waiting patiently for the exact moment your spirit was ready to receive it. Listen carefully, because what is about to unfold is not simply about love. It is about purpose, timing, healing, and a story that heaven has been writing long before you ever realized someone else's footsteps were moving toward yours. You have asked questions that never left your lips. You have carried silent tears that no one noticed. Yet not one of them escaped my sight. I have watched every lonely night, every whispered prayer, every moment when you wondered if what your heart longed for would ever become real. Today, I am asking you not to rush ahead. Stay with me until the very end of this message, because every sentence is connected to something greater than you can presently understand. For so long you believed the silence meant nothing was happening. You measured your future by what your physical eyes could see, but heaven has never been limited by what appears visible. While you believed doors had closed forever, unseen hands were rearranging circumstances that no human mind could have organized. Every delay carried a hidden purpose. Every unexpected goodbye protected you from a chapter that would have stolen the peace you were meant to experience later. Even the moments that broke your confidence became part of a preparation you did not recognize while you were living through them. My child, nothing has been wasted. Even the pain that made you question your worth has become part of a foundation that will soon make perfect sense. There is someone whose journey has been changing in ways they themselves cannot fully explain. They have tried to ignore certain thoughts. They have distracted themselves with responsibilities, conversations, plans, and ordinary routines, but something keeps pulling their attention back toward a direction they once believed belonged only to the past. They cannot understand why memories suddenly feel different. Familiar places now carry unfamiliar emotions. Certain songs seem to linger longer than before. Quiet moments have become louder than crowded rooms because truth often whispers before it speaks clearly. This has not happened by coincidence. Hearts can wander, but when my timing begins to unfold, even wandering hearts start recognizing what they once overlooked. You have wondered whether they ever truly thought about you. You questioned whether your importance disappeared the moment life separated your paths. Those questions have echoed inside you more times than you admitted. Yet I tell you now that the story is much deeper than appearances suggested. Sometimes I allow distance because proximity would have destroyed what patience was designed to protect. Sometimes two people must become strangers for a season so they can eventually meet one another with eyes that have finally learned how to see. The version of you that existed before could not have carried the future I planned. Neither could theirs. Growth often happens where no audience is watching. Pause here with me for another moment. There is something else you must understand before your heart runs ahead of my words. Your soulmate coming back into your life is not the greatest revelation. That is only the beginning. The greater story has remained hidden because if you had known everything too soon, fear would have convinced you to interfere with my timing. You would have tried to force conversations before hearts were ready. You would have chased answers instead of allowing healing to complete its quiet work. I protected you from knowledge that would have become a burden instead of a blessing. There are seasons when unanswered questions are actually acts of divine mercy. Not every separation begins because love disappears. Sometimes confusion becomes louder than truth. Sometimes wounds from childhood speak more loudly than genuine affection. Sometimes people carry invisible fears they cannot even name. They run not because love is absent, but because vulnerability feels more frightening than loneliness. They convince themselves that distance will create peace, only to discover that peace cannot exist where truth has been abandoned. What they believed would free them slowly became another form of emptiness. That realization cannot be rushed. It must be lived. While you continued asking why certain events unfolded the way they did, I continued watching both stories unfold simultaneously. I watched your tears become wisdom. I watched their certainty become questions. I watched your prayers become strength. I watched their confidence become humility. Neither journey looked impressive from the outside, yet both were moving exactly where they needed to go. Heaven often works quietly enough that people mistake transformation for ordinary life. There were nights when you almost gave up believing that meaningful love could still exist. You smiled in front of others while silently wondering whether your season had already passed. You tried convincing yourself that perhaps expecting something beautiful was childish. Yet every time your hope nearly disappeared completely, something small happened that kept a tiny flame alive inside your heart. A conversation. A dream. A memory. A peaceful feeling that arrived without explanation. Those were not accidents. Those were reminders that my promises rarely arrive according to human calendars. Something extraordinary has been unfolding without announcement. The person connected to this story has begun noticing changes inside themselves that cannot be explained by logic alone. Old opinions no longer satisfy them. Old excuses no longer sound convincing. They have started recognizing patterns they once ignored. Moments they dismissed now return with unexpected clarity. They have found themselves asking questions they never cared enough to ask before. Why did certain memories never truly disappear? Why does one particular name continue returning to their thoughts? Why does moving forward suddenly feel impossible without understanding what was left unfinished? These questions are not random. They are invitations. Yet I tell you again, my beloved child, there is more to the story. The return you have imagined is not identical to the return I have prepared. Human imagination often pictures dramatic reunions, perfect conversations, instant healing, and effortless joy. Heaven works differently. I do not restore merely to repeat the past. I restore to create something entirely new from what once appeared broken beyond repair. If two people return carrying the same fears, nothing changes. But when two hearts return transformed, even familiar paths become completely different journeys. There have been unseen battles surrounding both of your lives. Not battles against one another, but battles within yourselves. Pride has been challenged. Fear has been confronted. Expectations have been reshaped. Old identities have slowly fallen away. This process has not always felt peaceful. Sometimes it felt like losing everything familiar. Yet transformation rarely feels comfortable while it is happening. Seeds break before flowers bloom. Dawn appears only after the longest darkness has completed its assignment. Listen carefully because this next part has been hidden until now. The story you believed ended actually paused at a chapter neither of you fully understood. While both of you continued living separate lives, invisible threads continued connecting moments across time. One decision led to another. One unexpected delay prevented another mistake. One closed opportunity redirected another future. Looking backward, you called many of these disappointments. Looking forward, you will eventually recognize them as protection. You have asked me many times whether waiting has any purpose. Let me answer you plainly today. Waiting without purpose feels like punishment. Waiting with purpose becomes preparation. The difference is not the amount of time. The difference is understanding that I have never abandoned what I began. Even when silence surrounded you, my hands never stopped working. Even when you doubted yourself, I never doubted the future I had written. There is something about this return that will surprise you more than the return itself. It is not only that someone is coming back. It is what they have discovered while they were away. They have learned that achievement cannot replace connection. They have learned that distraction cannot silence truth forever. They have learned that pretending not to care demands far more energy than admitting what the heart already knows. These lessons were never meant to shame them. They were meant to awaken them. Sometimes people must travel far enough to realize they have been searching for what they already encountered long ago. Meanwhile, you have been changing too, though perhaps you have not celebrated your own growth enough. You have become stronger than the version of yourself who first entered this story. You have survived disappointments that once seemed impossible. You have carried responsibilities you never expected. You have learned compassion without surrendering your dignity. You have learned patience while still protecting your heart. None of this happened overnight. Every challenge quietly shaped someone capable of carrying a future that earlier versions of you could never have sustained. But there remains one final layer you have not yet seen. There is a conversation that has not happened yet. There is a truth that has not been spoken yet. There is a choice that has not been made yet. And all three are connected. This is why I ask you not to become impatient during these next moments of your journey. What appears delayed is actually being aligned. There are pieces still moving into position. Words are still forming inside hearts. Courage is still growing where fear once lived. Timing is still protecting what haste would damage. If you attempt to control every detail, you may only create confusion where clarity was already on its way. Some of you have sensed unusual peace recently, even though nothing around you has visibly changed. Others have experienced unexpected emotions without understanding why. Do not dismiss these moments too quickly. Sometimes the spirit recognizes movement before the mind understands it. Sometimes hope returns quietly before circumstances finally catch up. Yet remember this carefully, my child. Never build your identity upon another person's return. Build your identity upon my presence. Love is a gift, but it was never designed to replace the foundation only I can provide. When your peace depends entirely upon another human being, fear becomes your constant companion. But when your peace rests in me, love becomes something you can receive instead of something you desperately chase. Still, there is something I have not revealed. The person connected to your story has reached a crossroads they never expected. They believed they had already decided which direction life would take. They believed certain chapters were permanently closed. Then something happened. Something quiet, something deeply personal, something that shifted the way they looked at everything they thought they understood. No crowds witnessed it. No celebration announced it. No one applauded it. But inside their heart, an old wall developed its first crack. That crack became a question. That question became reflection. That reflection became conviction. And conviction always demands action. The day is approaching when silence will no longer feel comfortable to them. The weight of unspoken truth will become heavier than the fear of speaking it. They may not know exactly how everything will unfold, but they are slowly discovering that avoiding destiny has become more exhausting than facing it. Even now, you may wonder whether this message could truly relate to your life. I tell you not to rush toward conclusions or assumptions. Let wisdom guide you instead of desperation. My purpose is never to create obsession. My purpose is to cultivate faith, peace, and readiness. The greatest blessings often arrive in hearts that have stopped trying to force every outcome. And now, before this part of the story comes to its close, hear these words with all the attention your heart can offer. Your soulmate is coming back into your life, but that return is connected to a truth neither of you fully understands yet. Hidden beneath everything you have imagined lies one final revelation that has remained covered until the appointed time. It explains why the waiting lasted so long. It explains why certain doors closed without warning. It explains why every attempt to forget somehow failed. And when that truth finally comes into the light, you will realize this was never only a love story. It has always been the beginning of something far greater. Because the secret heaven has protected until now is about to change everything.